Okay, so we're trying to find the way to get the true ending. I'm almost certain it branches from Shogo's. Now let's think about it this way. Oh, hey Reizna, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, everyone. I hope you guys are all doing well today. Please go check out our friend Reizna. She's a really sweet streamer with an awesome community. Plays a lot of different games, including Love and Deep Space, retro JRPGs, and Final Fantasy XIV. Go check her out, say hello, give her all the love and support. Thank you for coming by and sharing your audience with us. We're playing some Love and Deep Space today. Hope you had a good time. Prince, welcome to the stream, and Crimson, hello, hello. I'm Kiro, frog-themed martial artist. We are playing Paranormasight, the Seven Mysteries of Honjo, and we are just about to figure out how to get the true ending. So feel free to sit back and relax, or go take care of yourself after your stream. I appreciate you being here. Okay, so we need the curse echo that Mayu had, right? Now the thing is, we saw her curse echo at the beginning of the game, right before Takumi appeared. So I have a feeling I have to do it somewhere here. Takumi appears here. That's when Shogo sees the curse echo. I have a feeling that Shogo might be the spirit of Seimon, because he apparently had high spirit sense. It's not Yoko, and it's not Yako, and there aren't that many other people with high spirit sense. I don't think it's Tetsuo. Now, in this ending here, Shogo dies, and also in this one. But it must branch off of one of these. Now, one thing I think I could have done differently is if I go down this path, and let's say I don't kill anyone, right? Or maybe I need to kill them all, because the thing is, of the 5 people that died, I pressed the button on 2 of them. Storyteller told me that Shogo killed 2 people. So maybe that means I need to manually press the button on all 5 of them, but I don't think the game would be mean enough to make me do all these manually myself. I don't think I need to go back and do all these episodes myself again, because that's a lot of reading, even if I speed through the text, and I don't think the game would make me do that. Now, we are already over time right now on stream. We're like 4.5 hours into stream. Actually, we're at the 5-hour mark now, and I need to go to sleep, but I will finish this game tonight. So I'm just gonna put on the table. I think that's what I need to do. I'm not sure how to do it, but I don't want to spend around a lot of time waffling about trying to trial and error it myself. So I'm going to glance and see what I need to do, which I don't feel good about this, but I also don't want to waste a lot of time. Okay, you know what? I didn't read the full explanation, but I read the start of it, and I think I have an idea. So I think I'm right. So when Shogo saw the curse echo of the... I keep calling it the light, but I keep forgetting what it's actually called. The beckoning light. So when Shogo sees the beckoning light, I think that's what I need to do. Maybe... Remember when I was talking to Takumi and he said, "Look behind you. That corpse is moving," and I didn't look because I thought it was a trick. Like, maybe it was Yoko, like, trying to fool us. So I think, when does Takumi appear? I thought it was to this one, but it might be this one. Because this one's still Kinshibori Park. This one, he doesn't appear. So the curse echo appears right... I think it's right after I find the stone. Like, I don't think I've talked to Takumi from then. I'm just gonna check because I don't want to waste time. Okay, no, it's the guide says start from talking to Takumi. Okay. So this is when we first meet Takumi. Yeah, there's the curse echo. Huh? The hell is that? It looks like a light floating in midair. What do I do about that? It's hard to believe she was so full of life just a few minutes ago. Takumi Yumioka, he said his name was. He hasn't taken his eyes off me for a second. Even now, he's still staring right at me. Who the hell is he? Maybe if I focus, I can recall something useful. Takumi Yumioka, how the hell does he know me? It's not like I've been getting out much. I barely have a life outside work. If I want to use my curse on him, I have to get him to walk away and leave me behind. Now, what would convince him to do that? Scenario 1, he does what he came here to do. Scenario 2, he suddenly needs to be somewhere else. He's probably here for my curse stone, so I don't think I'll get out of Scenario 1 alive. Scenario 2 means hoping something will happen by chance, and luck is rarely on my side. So my only hope is Scenario 3. Something makes it impossible for him to stay. I don't have to keep him away forever, I just have to get him to walk away once. Oh, wait, it came closer to me. Whoa, it's coming closer. Is this another one of the 7 mysteries? It looks like a will-o-the-wisp, maybe. Was there anything like that in the 7 mysteries? Huh? Am I supposed to touch it? Aha! Cleansing, Shogo Okie. When the body, soul, and mind of Seimin Tsuchimikado have all been brought together, the rite of cleansing is activated, dispelling all rituals and curses that have been previously performed. So this is a route where everyone lives, I think. Well, except for maybe Hajime and Michio. My. Finally, you've arrived at this juncture. I expected no less from you. That would mean you have managed to bring everything to light. Though there is the possibility that you have wound up here by chance. So before I take you any further, I must ask you a couple questions. Oh, so it's possible to accidentally stumble on this ending the first time, and then he quizzes you to make sure you did it properly? I guess the game wanted to continue being meta. I was gonna say an easy way to solve that is just to make it so the wisp doesn't get closer to you until you fulfill the conditions, but... about what exactly the soul, body, and mind of Seimin Tsuchimikado are. Or maybe you can only get this after you've gotten the other ending, and he's just like, this is like the final boss, is like him asking you the questions. And there's no way to actually get it accidentally the first time. Firstly, which curse echo represents the soul of Seimin Tsuchimikado? The beckoning light. Yes, that is exactly it. After his defeat at the hands of Ashino in the Honjo incident, Seimin wandered about near Hoanji. The form of his curse echo changed over time with the legend he left behind. This is the curse echo which was acquired by Mayu Chozawa. But when called forth by Seimin's body and mind, it appeared momentarily before him. I was gonna say, because Mayu wasn't anywhere near that location, so I guess it was the curse echo was called forth by his body and mind. That explains why we didn't need Mayu. Let us continue. Who served as the self of Seimin's Tsuchimikado? Who was his body, his descendant who carried his blood in their veins? Shogo. I like how it says Shin Megami Tensei there, because I've definitely searched that before on my Switch. Correct again. Although Shoko Okie was born to an ordinary family, the blood of a distant relative ran thick in his veins. In truth, the same is true for Yoko Fukunaga. She was also one who had the blood of a distant relative coursing through her. In her case, it was Ashino. Seimin and Ashino fated to meet again after all these hundreds of years later. Now for my final question. Who is the mind of Seimin Tsuchimikado? Tell me the name of the person whose consciousness was directly tied to his. Now, Mio said that the mind and the body could be the same person. So, then in that case it's Shogo. But I don't think he's gonna ask me were the questions the same answer twice. Now, is he asking... I did say that what if I'm What if I said that? What if I was possessing Shogo, right? I did say that. What if I'm supposed to be the mind? Oh, I see. You believe it to be Kiro? Are you saying you believe it to be yourself? Are you certain? Yes, you're correct. Finally, you remembered. I'm an Onmyoji? That's right, you are. Seimon's consciousness awoken by the curses and the rite of resurrection. However, having lost your memories, you forgot about the duty assigned to you. This is, if I may say so, where I played my part, guiding you through the events of the story. As your consciousness was all that was left of you, you manipulated time and space by way of the story chart, jumping from vessel to vessel. So, I was wondering about this too as we were playing. So, when you play Zero Escape, or I, the Somnium Files, both of those games involve jumping around the story chart timeline. And both games eventually give you an explanation of how you're able to do that, beyond the fact that it was a gameplay mechanic. I was curious if this game would do that too. Because we've been jumping around the timeline, and we've been using metadata, and also Mayu was like, is someone sending information to my brain? So then I was like, are they gonna explain how we're doing the story chart jumping? And I guess then here the answer is yes. Is it a satisfactory explanation? I will take it. It's not as mind-blowing as I think Zero Escape was. It's kind of similar in vein to the way I, the Somnium Files did it. I'll accept it though. That's interesting. And manipulated your host's actions by whispering commands into their ears. And also, it also explains how he said that Shogo only killed 2 people out of the 5, because I was the one who technically killed 3. In doing so, you were able to get the full picture of what was needed to be done. But at one point, while still unconscious, you managed to remember your duty. The so-called mastermind behind these events, the one who awakened the rite and the curses, was Yoko Fukunaga, descendant of Ashino herself. You unconsciously activated your curse and killed her. How interesting that she awakened Seimon's consciousness at the same time as the curses. That was the one and only time she could have been stopped. See, I feel like this isn't a good explanation, and I'll explain why. So he said that I awakened because of the ritual, right? But the ritual started when Shogo got his curse echo. So it doesn't technically make sense that the storyteller started my story before that happened, because we were inserted into the consciousness before that happened. So I think if this explanation was to be completely believed, for the player, the game should not have started until Shogo got his curse echo, because I would not have been awakened yet. So that feels like it doesn't really fit. But it's close enough that I'll accept it, because otherwise the narrative wouldn't make sense from a player standpoint. Ah, but due to your influence on Shogo Okie's will, Yoko Fukunaga was brought back to life, using the story chart to undo her death. It led you to believe that it was the work of the rite of resurrection itself. Actually, it did not lead me to believe that. So he was supposed to say that the first time that Shogo collected all the soul dregs and died, that's the story chart allowing me to go back and reset Yoko's death, was supposed to be that quote-unquote rite of resurrection disguised. But it was actually like me bringing her back, and then that's setting the events of the rest of the story for the 3 other protagonists, or 4 other protagonists if I count Mayu. But as it turns out, seeing what would transpire, the mastermind was not killed at the onset. is what ultimately revealed the way to put an end to the curses for good. There were certain things which would have answered all your questions had you noticed them. For example, even while under your control, Shogo Okie willingly used his curse. That was my first tip-off. When I asked you early on how many Shogo Okie had killed, this is what I meant. Had you not used the curse, Shogo Okie would have done so of his own accord, which I learned. Furthermore, Mayu Chozawa was able to recall the information which only you knew. She was able to do this because she was connected to you through her curse echo, the beckoning light. Okay, he's explaining everything here, so I don't need anyone in chat to explain things to me yet. Here. In truth, Yoko is a descendant of Onmyoji who continue to practice in modern times. Her ancestor Ashino attempted to steal the rite of resurrection in Honjo during the Edo period. Born with exceptional spirit sense, Yoko learned about her own ancestry while researching her roots, and was disappointed to find her bloodline had fallen into mediocrity. She became consumed with the ambition to restore her family's lost glory through her own powers, and devised a scheme to succeed where Ashino failed and performed the rite of resurrection. Yoko continued her training, developing her spiritual and curse powers until she discovered the Record of Fates, which offered clues regarding the rite. She plotted to use the curses of the Seven Mysteries of Honjo to gather a large number of soul dregs by calling forth curse echoes and setting the stage for a mutual slaughter. The ultimate plan involved evoking a large-scale feast of shadows, awakening the curses, performing the rite herself, and bringing together enough soul dregs to revive Ashino. Since the effects of the curses increase the more people know and fear them, she first entrusted the Record of Fates to local historian Hideki Araishi, who could be used to easily spread the rumors. She also contacted Fumachika Nejima, a criminal with a deep understanding of mystic arts, to obtain the curse stones needed to gather soul dregs. Unsurprisingly, Nejima was very interested in the story of Ashino and readily agreed to aid his revival. I mean, her revival. While carrying out these steps, Yoko. Why are there so many spelling mistakes in this? While carrying out these steps, Yoko learned of the existence of the Yin Scroll, which threatened to thwart her plans. She added a note about the scroll in the Record of Fates before giving it to Raishi, intending to acquire it before it could pose an issue. Through investigations, Yoko discovered that Hajime Yoshimi was a descendant of Seimin, and threatened him with a curse in an effort to scare him into revealing the whereabouts of the Yin Scroll. But Hajime bravely resisted Yoko's threats. She killed him with the curse to ensure Seimin's descendant would not stand in her way. As her preparations were coming together, Yoko obtained the seemingly less dangerous curse stone of the Whispering Canal in order to become a curse bearer, the necessity for gathering the curse stones for the Feast of Shadows. Shogo Okie, also a descendant of Seimin, was eyed as a potential risk factor and contacted to ensure he would be located nearby and subject to monitoring. However, unaware the spirit of Seimin would be awakened within Shogo as soon as she invoked the curse, Yoko's plan was thwarted when she was immediately cursed to death by Seimin. So Yoko was, in the first timeline, she pretended to see something behind Shogo to make him walk away in hopes that she could kill him with the Whispering Canal. However, his power of the light reflected her curse back on her. Uno reversed her. That's what killed her. Now, when they put it all out like this for me, I was gonna say, one of my complaints was that I don't think there were enough clues that Yoko was behind it, and that's because I guess they want to make it more of a twist than Ayame. The clues were there, but they were all at the beginning, and I guess it all basically ties back to the fact that basically in the timeline where she died, none of that happened. But then in the timeline where she lived, all of this happened. That was the main clue. So I don't think they provided enough clues, probably on purpose, because they didn't want you to suspect her. In fact, they probably wanted you to get her out of your mind at all after Shogo was out of the picture. So, as a twist, I think this is an interesting twist. I'll accept it. I don't think it's the best twist, but I think it's an okay twist. I think the best twist is when you realize it maybe this fulfills my requirements, is when you finally piece together the piece of the puzzle, and you figure it out just minutes before they reveal it in-game to you, which is kind of what happened. I just don't think it's as good of a twist as some of the other mystery novels we played, but it's a good twist, I think. I had another complaint, but I'm not sure if it played into the factor here. Oh yeah, my other complaint is that for the story of Iwai, for the story of Nejima, and for the story of Yoko, if you don't read the file, you miss out on all this. And I guess it's because the game's like, okay, some people don't need this extra information. Some people don't need the entire detailed account of how it happened, but some people will be interested. So for example, like the details of exactly how Nejima and Iwai brought ruin to Michiko's family isn't completely relevant to the story other than the fact that it happened and like what led to it. So all the details were put in files, so they're optional. Kind of like how here, like what's important is we found out that it was Yoko, and people were probably able to piece it together. But if you want all the exact details of how she did it, then there's the file to fill in the gaps. So I don't really like that you need the file to fill in the gaps, but I can see why they did it, because some people would be interested and some people wouldn't. Some people would need the extra information filled in and some people wouldn't. But the problem I find with the file is that every time you have to read a long file, it takes away from whatever's happening in the game. Because I'm invested in doing something right now in the game, and suddenly I need to pause and read through this long-ass file, and that doesn't feel very fun to me. So like, for example, all the files that describe the locations in the game, those are extraneous information that are just nice to know. And I skipped those, so those were fine, but these ones are actually story important. Does that make sense? Now, allow me to ask you one last question. If you, knowing all that you know now, had the ability to resurrect one life, what would you do? Well, I said this at the onset, but he didn't give me a choice to say this one. Oh, I see, I see. That was Saban's original intention. I apologize for leaving out the options when I first asked you this question. Now it is time to bring things to a close. Upon your arrival here, the rite of cleansing was activated, dispelling all other rituals and curses. Look upon the fruit of your efforts, and then we shall leave this world behind for good. See, the disadvantage to this, though, is it's kind of like some other games we've played where, okay, so you get the good ending where you finally rewind time, you undo everything, and then none of the incidents in the game happens, which means none of the murders happen. But then it also means none of our characters meet each other, right? Like, it means Yako doesn't develop her friendship with Mio. It means that Hatsue doesn't find Richter as a person to confide in. It means that Tetsuo and Ario don't go on their little adventure here. Which is kind of sad. Thank you truly for all the work you have done. Shogo's alive again, I guess. Ah! Oh, that's what happened. I can't believe it. I finally understand. Yeah, I was the one who did that to Yoko. The blood of the Onmyoji that's inside me broke into my consciousness and gave me that curse. Yoko was after the rite of resurrection. She was the one who awakened the curses of the Seven Mysteries and cast the Feast of Shadows. And the only way to put a stop to it was to put a stop to her here. Also, the fact that Yamamori made her sound like a big bad the entire time, and in the end she was inconsequential, didn't appear in person, and her only role was the fact that she was also a female character, so that we could mistake her voice for the one Araishi heard. Otherwise, the rite of cleansing might have been negated too. I wonder how much of it was really her doing all those things. Yoko. I guess that explains why I felt like it was fate when this all started, though she didn't seem to notice. I guess things are always destined to end like this from the moment we met. I wish we could have met under different circumstances. Wait, where's Takumi? Isn't he standing here still? No point in thinking like that now. God, I need a drink. The man just murdered someone and was like, okay, I need a drink now. I mean, I guess. I'm thinking Moscow Mule, or 2, or 3. Damn, he even picks the drink that Yoko was talking about. Where's Takumi, though? Also, the fact that Harue's story ended after Ayame left her house felt kind of weird. Like, she wasn't involved in anything after that. Ma'am, what is it? Oh. Just a dream. Seems that it was all just a dream. I dreamt that there was such a thing as the rite of resurrection. Just a dream. I'm sorry to say it, but there isn't. Right. Of course not. But even if there's no such thing, I promise you I will get to the bottom of this kidnapping. In fact, I've happened to find a very important lead from over a year ago. Something that's evaded our reach until now. An eyewitness from the scene of the kidnapping. I see. Also, I'm assuming in the good timeline she eventually also still learns how the kidnapping happened, but how are they going to do that if we're not investigating all the curse stones, right? Whoa, what the hell is this? The medical unit told me to get down here. What happened? As I was looking into Yoshimi's death at the former Yasuda Gardens, another body was discovered at a different park in the area. Could they be related? Sure looks like it, but... Excuse me, we found this among the victim's belongings. Thought you'd want to know. What is it? What the hell? Boss, look what was in the female victim's address book. Yoshimi's phone number and photo. What? In the picture, there's an X drawn on it and a bunch of weird symbols and a hole where his heart would be. No. Do you think, could this be some kind of curse or something? How many times did I tell you not to try to connect everything to a cult? Damn it. Is this a Nakagoshi case after all? That's right, in this timeline, Ario also doesn't learn about the Paranormal Affairs Department. What was that, boss? Don't worry about it. Make sure you put that photo into evidence. There's no doubt this is related to Yoshimi. Make sure you do a thorough sweep of the area. I'm gonna make a phone call. Got it. Leave it to me. Spend as long as you want on the phone. Mio, it turns out Michio really did die in an accident. Yeah, if we ask around, we might be able to get a little more information. Also, Yako's still possessed at this point. I guess Mio will eventually realize and exercise it, but that also means that Yako didn't get her farewell with Michio. I guess there never really was such a thing as the rite of resurrection. But it did feel like there was a spirit watching over us. Damn it, why? Nothing's happening. But now my contract won't be... No! I should never have believed in this blasted record of fates. To all of you watching from far, far away, the rite of resurrection has never existed. Not in any world, not in any time. So I ask you to take the life you hold, and to move boldly forward one step at a time. Oh, because EY hasn't been killed yet, so... EY's already out. Hang on, Ario, I want to get enough evidence for a search warrant. Let him go for now, and I'll follow him. That's the kidnapper. Yes, I'm the one who did it. So please help me. She's always following me. So I guess they're trying to show us that yes, all the stuff still happens. The exorcism and everything else. I'm so sorry, Michio, I had no idea. What? Hajime was killed by this Yoko Fukunaga. How could that be? He wasn't the kind of guy who could just be picked off like that. You know that. Yeah, and boss is hiding something. There seems to be some kind of secret hidden in Hajime's family tree. Let me see if I can find out what it is. I've heard you would be absent today. Is there something you need? Well, I seem to have this spirit sense thing all of a sudden. I know it's the sort of thing our chairwoman doesn't approve of, so I thought I'd mention it. You could have called, didn't think you were the standoffish type. I had to find out from EY. Whoops, sorry, I forgot all about my favorite chief inspector. The hell are you planning? Nothing so heinous as you're thinking. I'm only Makoto Ashimiya after all. Nothing but a lowly janitor. How are things with you? You getting along with your daughter? It's weird to see them, like, just having casual conversation like that. What the hell? Well, you know, more or less. That also means that Ayame doesn't make up with her dad. I mean, not that she really made up in the actual timeline either, but... Is this a real credit roll? Okay. Okay. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game. So, as a visual novel, mystery, paranormal, with a little bit of battle royale in it, I really enjoyed it. I think there were a lot of really good parts in the game. There were definitely some parts that I think stood out more than others. And it still scratches my brain. It gives me that, it scratches that itch I have for games like Zero Escape, like Ace Attorney, Danganronpa, Eye of the Somnium Files. It scratches that same itch, so I'm really happy for that. And I think anyone that enjoys those genres will enjoy this game too. I think it's definitely not my, out of all those series I just mentioned, I don't think it's better than those series, except maybe Eye of the Somnium Files, because there's definitely a lot I don't like about that series. I think it's still good, and it's also, this is a shorter game, so like on average people finish this game in like accordingly like 12 hours. For me it was closer to like 15 or 16 because I was reading everything out loud, and reading out loud makes everything take longer, of course. I think the nice thing about this game is it is a shorter experience than the Zero Escape games, shorter than Ace Attorney games, shorter than Eye of the Somnium Files. So in that case, I think it's better because it feels a little bit more packed together. I feel like it's a little bit more compact, which makes for a nice little package, so you don't get like fatigued reading through a visual novel. Biggest complaint, again, so this game, I'm playing it on the Nintendo Switch. This game is available on Switch and Steam. The Switch version with controller, they didn't optimize it for controller. The Switch controller simply controls your mouse, so you use it almost like a mouse, but it doesn't control as well as a mouse. So sometimes when the game wants you to click on something very specific, it's not as easy to move it around. It'd be nice if, like on the menu, for example, I could use L and R to tab between different tabs, or I could use the D-pad to move the left scroll bar up and down. They do let me use the right stick to move the right scroll bar up and down, but no, instead you have to move the mouse and do everything. So I think it would have been nice if they just added a couple extra controller controls to make it feel like, yes, this is being used with a controller now. Because like I said, there were a couple times in the game where the controller worked against me. Like when I was saying the "Oh Spirit of the Spirit Board" thing, I thought I missed the click because some of the clicks don't register. And so I clicked it twice by accident, not knowing that, right? Or there was the time where I had to, like, I was supposed to show a sign that I was going to remember Michio. And I thought it was because it wasn't detecting my click on the coin, because the coin wasn't, the clicks are not accurate, right? So I think that lends itself against it, and I hope that's something they fix with Paranormasight too. But it's more of a technical issue, so it's not a big complaint with me. Okay, so that's the end. It's not a big, it's not the worst complaint, but it is a complaint. Now I do know with Switch 2 has like Switch 2 has the mouse mode, so I guess if I was playing this on Switch 2, that would change, but I don't think this game's on Switch 2. Paranormasight 2 is on Switch 2, but Paranormasight 1 didn't come out when the Switch 2 was available, so I'm sure that maybe they make use of the mouse mode if you play a Switch 2 version. I think there's some parts in the game where there's too much exposition, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean there's definitely lots of times where you do a lot of info dumps. At the very beginning of Shogo's story, that first hour of gameplay, I was starting to get tired of the game in the first hour because it was just a lot of exposition, and it would have been nice if maybe they spread that out, but I understand why they dumped it there. Same with like the beginning of Harue's story, the beginning of Tetsuo's story, the beginning of Yako's story. They all had to like info dump on us where those characters were at that point in time. I get it, but it was a lot of information, and some of it was a little redundant because some of the characters have overlapping things, but again, I guess the game at that point doesn't know which character route you're doing. There's a couple points where the characters' paths intersect, and the characters have to share information. And luckily, the game does the thing where like, oh, let me tell you what we found so far, and then it fades to black, and then they continue. So it's nice that they don't have to spend time doing that. But they still, when characters cross paths, they still share information that is a little redundant to the player because the characters need to know the information. So I'm not complaining about that, I'm just saying it happens quite a bit that reminds me of the parts where there's definitely slower exposition that I think doesn't, not to say it doesn't need to be there, but I feel like it could have been paced in a way that made it less tiresome. Or when the game dumps, like at the very beginning, a whole bunch of files at you at the same time. And it's like, yes, they're optional. Some of them are kind of interesting, some of them are more related to the case, so it's like I want to read through them, especially the people profiles, but it's like, okay, I suddenly have like 10 profiles or files to go through, and I want to just keep reading the game, but I have to pause and read these files. Or like every time we do one of those like big reveals, like Iwai's story, or Nejima's story, or Yoko's story, you have to pause and read through this long-ass file if you want the full context in the middle of what you're doing, and I don't really like that style, but I understand why they choose to do it. So it's more of a stylistic thing for me in that point. I think in terms of like some other games that branching story paths and make you go between story paths, make choices that affect other story paths and unlock endings, like 999 does that too, the other Zero Escape games do that. And at some points in time, like it's a little difficult to find out what to do to progress. In this game, for the most part, because there aren't that many branches, and there aren't that many like suspends and dead ends, it wasn't that bad, and it is a shorter game. Some of the ways that you do proceed though were a little bit, in my opinion, not done quite as well, a little bit more obtuse. Like they make sense. After you do them, you're kind of like, okay, I guess that was clever. The main ones being moving Yako and Mio to the school at the same time as Tetsuo and Eri. They make sense after you do it, but at the time it's kind of weird because you're not really sure, because at that point in time the game had not had a mechanic like that, which is the point. But like that's why I thought the thing with Yamagaki's curse echo, when you have to turn off the volume, I felt like that was very clever, and I was like, especially because the storyteller had already mentioned, oh, if you want to mute someone, you could do that, even though there's no voices in the game and there's a mute option. So that was like clever to me, but then like with moving Mio and Yako to the school did not feel as clever to me, because it just felt like it worked against what you feel like in other video games where, you know, the characters are where you need them to be. I think it would have been better if they did a chart on the side that shows like current location and has all their current locations, and then that way that would be more of a hint for it. But I don't think that's like, it's not the worst complaint, it's just my personal take. The storyteller. I think the storyteller at the beginning of the game, I was kind of like, okay, do I really need this guy? When we finished, like every time we saw him during Shogo's route was like kind of neat, especially when he kind of gave us a hint about Namagaki's curse echo, or when Shogo eventually collects all the soul dregs and dies. So I was like, okay, there it is. And then we don't see the storyteller, and then the storyteller introduces the other three story paths. But after that, the storyteller doesn't appear again until the part where you start to suspect that Michio might be alive. And I don't like that part because I feel like that's a good twist and a good plot point, and then suddenly like you're like in this moment of like, whoa, there's a reveal here, something's going on, the story's progressing, I want to see what the character's doing, and then suddenly it goes back to the storyteller, and then he kind of inadvertently spoils the whole Michio thing for almost no reason. Like I don't think that provided any benefit unless it was to give you more of a hint if you didn't catch on yet, but I feel like that really took me out of the moment, and I felt like that was a very unnatural point in the story for it to suddenly switch to him, considering we hadn't seen him at all since we finished Shogo's route. And like storyteller appearing at the end of the game makes sense, but yeah, that point in the middle just felt very weird. And so I felt like it almost took away from something, and it basically ruined one of the twists in the game, I feel. So the use of the storyteller sometimes in the game worked, and sometimes I felt didn't. Not the most awful thing, but still. Now, narratively, this game, I think the ending was okay, but it didn't really, like, I think the twist with Yoko was okay too, and the whole Ayame being Nejima's daughter thing was cool too. But I feel like the implementation wasn't as cool as it could have been, because I feel like this part of the game, right, like when you're on the bridge, it's supposed to be a very high tension, climactic moment, right? You're confronting Nejima, you have a gun pointed at him, he's ready to wipe out like hundreds of people, and like they're playing this like happy music, and they keep pausing in their conversation to give you a chance to click on him and talk to him. So it felt like I was like, this is supposed to be a very high tension moment in the game, and it didn't feel like it was there because of the way they chose to portray it. This was a really good part. I think this was my favorite part of the game. The tension between Ayame and Haruwe trying to like outmaneuver each other, both showing that they're not gonna back down, but both doing it in different ways, and the way their personalities matched up there, the tension in the air, the music playing, the slow, like having to ask questions because that is part of the game of the mind games, right? They're trying to outplay each other. That worked really well here. This achieved everything that this failed to achieve. This was great. This part was fantastic. This part, I get what they were going for. Having all the other characters hiding in the bush, making like funny remarks, really took away from it. The music I don't think really fit with this. I think like this is also supposed to be a very climactic, like almost supposed to be conclusion to the game, or at least trick you into being the conclusion. It didn't really feel like a final standoff. It didn't feel like an emotional thing. Like I guess when he, refuses to back down and calls her his daughter is emotional, but then it also like, the weirdness of him not dying immediately from the echo, the way that they show him making his goofy surprise face shortly before it happens. Like, there's just a lot about this scene that I feel is missed. Also, this scene was quite long. The last resort scene was quite long. The manhunt scene was quite long. The conclusion scene was actually pretty short. I feel like it didn't feel climactic enough, like it should have been. I think what they really needed was a really good, like the music in this game is good, but I think they really needed like a very emotional new music track just for this scene, because it was mostly music we'd heard before already. So I think this scene failed to reach conclusion, and manhunt failed to reach the heights of last resort. Now, the ending of the game, like this part of the game, yes, Mio's there, but she's not really doing anything during the conclusion part. I guess she does the post part with Jun in the park. But the fact that Natsue's story just kind of ends here is kind of strange to me. Like the fact that she doesn't participate in the so-called conclusion, despite being a main character. What's interesting about her, too, is if you go to the Paranormasight Wikipedia page, she has her own Wikipedia article. Like, I'm not talking about the Paranormasight wiki, I'm talking about Wikipedia. She has her own Wikipedia page. I didn't want to read it for spoilers, but that means that they have enough on her to give her a dedicated page. So I was kind of expecting a little bit more of a payoff with her story, which we didn't really get, right? Ayame just kind of leaves her after convincing her to give up her stone, and that's it. That's kind of the last we see of her. And I don't feel like that was a really great ending. I feel like for her, like, I think realizing that she doesn't want to sacrifice people to bring back her son, I think is a good way to end it, but the way they did it felt like it just kind of ended. Like, it was like, okay, she had that realization, she gave up her stone, and then Ayame just leaves, and that's it. I feel like there should have been more of a payoff with this. I think the payoff with Michio's part was actually pretty good. Yako's farewell to Michio felt really good, although it was a lot earlier than a lot of these other ending scenes, so it didn't really feel like a conclusion. So I'm okay with Yako not having as much to do down here, because she already had her final moment, which was saying farewell to Michio, and that was a pretty good scene. Tetsuo's story, like, he refuses to admit that he doesn't see Ayame as a daughter, and then dies. So, like, from like a standpoint of storytelling, that's emotional and shows like his character and development. But again, after that, he just dies, and then that all happens off screen, and then Ariel meets Mio in the park, and they don't want to dwell on Tetsuo's death narratively, so they don't really show him doing that there. So it just kind of feels like his death didn't happen. So I felt like Tetsuo's conclusion didn't feel as good either. So then that brings us to Shogo's conclusion, which is like, okay, yes, there's a puzzle where you figure out how to end everything, and then it goes here. But then this conclusion doesn't really, even though this is like the best ending where everyone lives for the most part, except for Yoko, Michio, and Yoshimi, it didn't really feel that happy. Like, Shogo just kind of goes like, okay, cool, I killed Yoko, bye, and then he leaves, and then you just get those small scenes of like, okay, leading to you to believe that, oh, okay, eventually Yako will reconcile with Michio's ghost. Yes, eventually Haruwe will find out the truth about her son, but it happens in such short little dialogues. You have to fill in the rest of your brain. It doesn't really feel like a good ending, and maybe that's what they were going for, but I feel like I would have wanted the payoff to be a bit better. I want to see everyone having a good time. I want to see like some kind of happiness reaching these characters, and instead we just have to fill in the blanks. And again, maybe that's a specific choice, but it's also, it kind of felt like, okay, now we're done the game. You got past the final puzzle, you figured out all our secrets, we got to end the game somehow. We don't want to ramble on, so we're just gonna end it, right? That's how I feel like they handled that, which to me is not ideal personally. So I don't know, I feel like the ending didn't quite land. They didn't stick the landing for me, even though everything's concluded. Also, the whole Yoko reveal, I don't like that. When we were standing in the park, yes, she comes and she tricks Mio and Ario into leaving, and then from then on we immediately know that she's the mastermind, right? But I think it's better if us, the viewer, have to use clues to figure out who the mastermind is and then stop them. But instead, it's just like, they're just like, oh, by the way, here's the mastermind. Here's everything you need to stop them. Go do it. You go to stop them, and then at the point that you stop them, she's already dead. So it didn't really feel as satisfying. It didn't really feel like we had outmaneuvered her. Like, the fun part about Ace Attorney, right, is that you corner the villain, and then they keep resisting with all this evidence and like stories they made up and lies, and then you have to throw in every receipt in their face and be like, that's a lie, that can't be right. Bam, 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 we have all the receipts, we're thwarting you at every turn, you're done. And they get their breakdown, and it feels really good. We don't get that here because she just dies off at the beginning, and then we just time travel back to it. So I feel like the ending wasn't what I wanted. But it still concluded everything satisfactorily. Yes, there might be a small, like, non-plot consequential plot holes about how the curse echoes work and whatnot. That's fine. But, I don't know. I feel a little empty after all that, which is not really what I want to feel after. Also, there's a number of typos in this game. I don't mind typos and grammar mistakes, but sometimes they're kind of important, like, for example, spelling an entire person's name wrong during a climactic moment in the game, or misspelling someone's pronoun and making me confused. So I think it would have been better if they found a way to reformat it. I understand with the way that... See, I'm not arguing that that was the only way to stop her. I'm arguing that I don't think I felt very satisfied by stopping her like that. Especially because I wasn't really the one who really stopped her. So I'm not saying that narratively that was the only way to stop her. I'm saying that from a gameplay perspective, that didn't feel very satisfying. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not arguing lore with you, I'm arguing style. And I just don't think that was the best way to go about it. It didn't feel satisfying. It didn't feel satisfying. I still like this game. I still like what they had going. I actually had the most fun during the Battle Royale part. So when they stopped doing that, because I feel like it was like, oh, I'm trying to figure out how the world works. I'm trying to use clues. I'm trying to learn about all the 7 mysteries so I can prevent Shogo from dying, and I can decide if I want to spare people or kill them. And then ultimately that ends up inconsequential. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Paranormasight 2 measures to this. I want to see what they do to try to improve upon it, if they do, which I hope is the case. Yeah, I guess that's mostly what I wanted to say. Extra thing I want to mention, Kieran actually showed this to me, which I think is hilarious, and I have to show it to you. So he doesn't really know much about this game. The only thing he knew about this game was a couple tweets from the Paranormasight official Twitter. And the official Twitter, once in a while, posts artwork to celebrate the game. Like, oh, it's the 1st anniversary of Paranormasight, here's some artwork. 2nd anniversary, here's some special artwork. Apparently they put out a piece of special artwork in summer 2023 when advertising that this game was going on sale. And that artwork was wild. This is the artwork in question. I'll let you take that in for a second. This was the artwork they used to advertise that the game was going on sale in summer 2023. Damn. Look, not only did they give Ario a treasure trail, they gave him hair on his thighs. You could argue maybe that's just the shading style, but that's hair on his thighs. They fan serviced the heck out of him for a random sale in summer 2023. And you know what? Good for them. Ario's my favorite character in this game, so good for them. But Kieran showed me this artwork. He's like, this is all I know about the game. And I'm like, wait, where did you get this? At first I thought it was a CG from the game. I'm like, wait, does this appear in the game? And he's like, I think it's just from I think it's just from the Twitter account. Because if this was like a secret CG in the game, I'd be like, that seems out of the blue. I could definitely see the Somnium File sneaking in like a swimsuit CG in the middle, because that game loves to play up the random fan service, right? Or I could see Danganronpa doing that, or like 100 Line did it. Not this game. I can't see Paranormasight doing that, so I was very surprised. I just thought that was funny to share. Anyways, wow, this was a long stream. We're almost at 6 hours. There's no way I would have been able to finish this game from the last stream, so I'm glad I took the extra day. But those are my thoughts. I still like the game, don't get me wrong. I still think it's a very solid entry. I would recommend it to people looking to play it. There is room for improvement, and it is good, but it's not the peak of the genre that I thought I was getting partway through it. But I'm still enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Paranormasight 2 measures up and what they do to make it different, what they do to improve it, both gameplay-wise and narratively-wise. But thank you so much for joining me for Paranormasight these last few days. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching the VODs. Thank you for participating in the Twitch chat. I'm glad you guys enjoyed this experience as well. It's nice to play one of these visual novels once in a while. It's nice not to have to commit to something that's super long. Because, you know, as much as I love Umineko, right? That was a really long playthrough, obviously. Zero Escape games, also very long, but of course not even on the same scale as Umineko. This was a nicer, shorter 4-stream experience. Could have done it in 5 streams, I guess, if I really wanted to. I feel like that's just the right length for a mystery visual novel game, especially if you're reading it out loud. Man, my voice has been a little... I started this game right after I recovered from being sick, and then halfway through this playthrough, I feel like my voice has been needing a little bit of TLC. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for coming by. I think I'm just gonna end stream and not raid because I'm really tired. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow for Paranormasight: The Mermaid's Curse. Take care. Bye, froggy friends.